Hey team, Victor here, just giving you a really quick session on finding your podcast why. So you often hear about finding your why in business or in life or whatever it is. Well, this is your podcast why. Okay, it's specific, but not necessarily as as deep down as what you'd probably go into for your life why. But it can be if you want to make it. But what I want to ask the question is, why did you sign up? Okay, so if we're looking at that, it's basically, what possessed you apart from my awesome charisma and obviously amazing course. No, what made you sign up to this? You obviously had an idea in mind, and figuring out your why is really going to help flow on to everything else. So what we want to do is start with the end goal in mind. Okay, and it doesn't have to be your final goal. You're obviously going to evolve and pivot along the way, but rather than going, hey, I want to start I'll give you an example about me. When I first thought about getting into podcasting and started doing some research, I thought, hey, a friend and one of my friends, we sit around and we watch rugby a lot of weekends, and we're both fairly knowledgeable in it. And I said, oh, let's put together a rugby podcast. And then I said, I started looking into the effort that it is to put out that kind of podcast. I said, I enjoy talking about sport, but I'd ideally like to monetize it down the track, or I'd like to position myself as an expert or an authority, or get into the commentary side of things. And I couldn't really see that happening with that. So the why didn't really see that, but I still liked talking. I still liked interviewing people. And one of my other passions was integrate mixing and learning and networking with other young entrepreneurs. So I thought, that's not too, or actually just entrepreneurs. And then I tended to have a look at who my peer group was, and there were a lot of younger entrepreneurs. So I had a look at that, and I thought, cool, I can position myself as an authority in that industry. I can, there's lots of ways that I can funnel out from there. I can have future events or mentoring and things like that, just like this podcasting course. And I've got also bigger 5 and 10 year goals that can fit in with this podcast. So your podcast doesn't have to be the be all and end all. It can just be part of your overall why. But think about why you're starting this podcast. Is it to make money directly off the podcast? You'll learn about all the different ways that you can look to make money from podcasting. But is it that, or is it you want to integrate it as part of your business? You want to get more exposure from your business. How can we do that? So start with the end goal in mind. So I want you to all write down what your end goal, what you'd be really happy with if once your podcast launches, it gets into new and noteworthy, gets exposure, and you're reaching out to more people. What would the end goal from that be? And look at 3, 6, and 12 months down the track. Where do you see your podcast being? What do you see it doing? Who's it reaching out to? And if you're looking to monetize it, or monetize some aspect of it, what phases are they going to be? 3 months down the track, or 6, 12, 24 months. And you could be a business startup. That's what you could be using it for. It's great exposure if you're starting your business from there. It can be business growth. So you may have a brand that's located only in the city, but you could turn it into a digital product and reach a lot more people, and that's growth. Or you may have an online product that's already out there, and you're looking to get more exposure, brand exposure, and that can be both from featuring on podcasts, but you have a lot more strength, authority, and get positioned as an expert if you're looking for brand exposure, and you've got your own podcast. So positioning yourself as an authority and an expert. I put those two as separate things because an authority can be a person who can connect you within that industry, or maybe the go-to person because they do know a lot in that, or they know people who know a lot, or there's, say, a person who puts together an event with the top speakers. Well, if you're a top speaker, you're going to go through to that person because they're an authority in there, in the speaking realm, but they're not necessarily the expert who's on the stage. So often a person will flow from an authority, or building themselves up from a nobody to an authority. And that's what a podcast really helps you do. And then they can transition from an authority, and then as more people get to know them, they either become a mini celebrity, a mini expert within their niche, or they become and transition into an expert in their niche and industry. And obviously with all of these, you may be the authority and expert. It can be both in business and in, you may be a lecturer, you may be a health or fitness expert. You can use a mix of all of these, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in regards to the business side of things. You may be a comedian and you're looking to get brand exposure, so you can and you be the brand, so you might be looking to get out there. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this, and I'd work through these steps and start with the end in mind, work backwards to where you are now, and then we can start figuring out what your why is. So I've created a worksheet for that. I want you to start working through that, and it's basically just a series of those previous questions. Share your why in our private Facebook group. Remember, it's private, no one else, none of your friends outside of the group. It's a safe zone where you can get great feedback. Once you've completed that, head on down to the next session where we'll be talking about finding and defining your niche.